Story 1, you learn to fix everything. Everything can be fixed. Buying a new item only happens when I consider fixing it to be more of a hassle than the cash cost of the new item, which isn't often. New items eventually wear out and become used within a week or so. Story 2. I am not afraid of poverty. I know how to navigate it. Because I came from poverty, I have prepared myself to avoid experiencing it again. Story 3. Gratefulness. Learn how to be thankful for everything because there are people in situations that are worse than your own. Story 4. Resilience. How to be more resourceful on my own since we couldn't pay people to help. How to be happy without needing many material possessions. Even now, I still don't have much, but it's by choice. Finally, generosity. When you live in a community where everyone is struggling, you learn to share what you have when you can and vice versa. Story 5. I would advise caution in public. I grew up poor while my wife grew up rich. I blend in with crowds, and she counts her money at automated teller machines. Story 6. I treat my belongings with care, and they remain in good condition long after I purchase them. I also carry out maintenance. I take a few extra seconds to prevent damage instead of dealing with the consequences later. Story 7. I automatically calculate the cost of groceries in my head while I shop to avoid the embarrassment of putting items back. I do this instinctively now, even if I can afford the food. Story 8. Entering a grocery store with a handful of coins and leaving with a combination of products that maximizes total calories and filling effect, while costing exactly what I have, without anyone noticing my actions. Story 9. I wasn't poor for my area, but I was able to move out and support myself without my parents' help at 17 because I didn't expect to have nice things and I chose to fix what was broken rather than buy new items. Story 10. A strong work ethic is important. When my coworkers complain about minor issues, I remember the times I prayed for a job like this. Story 11. Making food last and turning leftovers into other meals is essential. My partner attempted to eat just the breast off a whole roast chicken and throw the rest away, but that is not acceptable. Story 12. I think you appreciate things more, which makes you feel more grounded. This is greatly beneficial to your well-being and state of mind. Story 13. The ability to fix just about anything. I'm in my 50s, so over the years I've become a car mechanic, plumber, framer, drywall installer, roofer, painter, lawnmower and snowblower technician, bike mechanic and appliance repair technician. Story 14. Not having an emotional connection to anything, because I know it could change at any moment. I could lose everything and just start again. Story 15. Treating the homeless like people. I am one broken car away from joining them, so a handful of change, fresh socks, and a cold water is the least I can spare for them. Story 16. I fixed our broken dishwasher today, which took me a couple of hours. I didn't even see a dishwasher in real life until I got married. My husband and I come from very different backgrounds. I am from deep Russia, and he is from Manhattan. He was very impressed and surprised. Story 17. How to smoothly communicate without relying on strong connections to mitigate my mistakes. If you have a strong social network, you can be less charismatic and still have the same impact as someone who is more charismatic. People are more willing to overlook mistakes and listen to exaggerations if you have established yourself as a valued connection. You learn a lot more about being charismatic when you are at the bottom, where everyone is aware of their position and is not easily deceived. The most valuable charismatic skill is having a solid rhythm and melody in your speech. You need to incorporate a musical element into how you talk and signal clear intentionality that is well thought out. Personally, I have never met anyone from an upper middle class background or higher who understood good rhythm and melody in their speech. Consider how Martin Luther King Jr. speaks and compare it to Donald Trump. Listening to Martin Luther King Jr. feels invigorating and energizing in a way that I don't think a wealthy individual could ever evoke. Story 18. Knowing hunger. I don't think you can truly know yourself when there is a part of you that will kill for food or die. It is strangely empowering. Not facing serious adversity is both a gift and a curse. People who don't know discomfort or hunger are like someone who has never been punched in the face before getting into their first fight. They are about to learn on the fly, and the stakes are high. Story 19. Decency towards service workers is essential. My friend's parents were fast food workers, hotel maids, lunch staff, janitors, and cashiers. It is incomprehensible to me that anyone would be inconsiderate to these individuals. I now have a good job at a prestigious university, and most of my friends at work are in the cleaning and kitchen staff. I often eat lunch with them, and we occasionally go out after work. I can relate to them much more than to the people in my office. Story 20. The ability to respect everyone's dignity equally and never consider anyone as a servant, domestic worker, or slave is essential. I have seen wealthy individuals who are street smart, eating the same low-quality food all day and possessing excellent do-it-yourself skills. However, I have yet to meet someone who is both wealthy and able to recognize that homeless individuals, maids, and cashiers possess the same amount of human dignity as they do. Story 21. Being comfortable in an unattractive space is something I notice more with my middle-class peers. Walls of the wrong color, imperfect flooring, or a less than ideal layout. It's fine. I've definitely seen worse. As long as it has 4 walls, a roof, functional plumbing, flooring, and I can afford heating and air conditioning, I'm truly happy. Story 22. Being able to determine the difference between quality and marketing is important. Unfortunately, many individuals struggle with this distinction. This is why some people purchase mattresses on monthly payment plans. It also explains why brands like Coach and Louis Vuitton achieve record profits from consumers earning less than $50,000. Additionally, this confusion contributes to the popularity of products like virtual currency. Story 23. Resilience. I am accustomed to scraping by to make ends meet. I can stretch a dollar when necessary, with little change to my positive outlook. As long as I have a safe place to sleep, food to eat, and my loved ones nearby, life is good. Things will get better, then they will become challenging again, and the cycle continues. In contrast, my boss loses her composure over minor inconveniences. She has a beautiful home, drives an expensive car, and is often irritated with someone or something that tells her no. She mentioned that her father used to take her to a warehouse store and let her fill the cart with whatever she wanted. I remarked that it would have been enjoyable as a child. She corrected me, noting that she was an adult in college during those trips. It is a sad fact that the more people are given, the less appreciation they have for simple joys. Story 24. I know that you can fill the bathtub with water taken from the neighbor's garden hose and use a bucket to fill the toilet tank so you can flush when the water is turned off due to non-payment. Story 25. I could fit everything I owned in the back of my car. If we needed to move or were evicted, we could be gone in an hour. Story 26. My sister-in-law is affluent, and I've noticed several differences in our lifestyles. One is that I take meticulous care of expensive items. My smartphone and tablet look pristine even after years of use. She and her husband often misuse their electronics. Another observation is that, despite never having wanted for money, she is constantly seeking more. She manipulated my father-in-law after the death of his wife to have a property signed over to her alone, which was supposed to be equally inherited among the 3 children. She is obsessed with inheritances to pad her accounts, as there was a similar issue when her father-in-law died, leaving money to a housekeeper, and a settlement when her brother-in-law passed away. She doesn't lead a lavish lifestyle, though. I realize that her greed is rooted in anxiety stemming from never having been poor and not knowing how to live without substantial financial resources. During the pandemic, she argued that my husband and I were better off than she and her husband, despite my husband losing his job while hers did not, and them having significantly more money saved and invested. She is terrified at the prospect of living with fewer resources. I know how to live with limited means because I have seen many people, including my family, navigate hardships. Understanding how to live with limited resources encompasses awareness of social support systems that are accessible, strategies for shopping and saving money, food preparation, and repairing items rather than discarding them. When people lack this knowledge, they experience greater fear about what might happen if their lifestyle declines, as they cannot imagine surviving without the comforts they have always known. Story 27. I have no emotional attachment to anything I own. If I had to, I would grab my pets and what they need, leave everything I have, and go in under 5 minutes without looking back or thinking about it. Story 28. Being able to see trouble brewing while it is still miles away is an important skill. This is often referred to as being hypervigilant, though it is sometimes perceived negatively. Additionally, it is like being Felix the cat when confronted with an obstacle, able to pivot quickly when faced with a challenge and then approach the problem with different tools and strategies. Story 29. Getting out of bad situations by myself and using my own wits. I can create a delicious meal from whatever ingredients I have. My wife is still amazed by how tasty my random meals are, even after 10 years of being together. There is nothing too terrible that cannot be fixed by a sincere apology. Lies will only get you into deeper trouble. I can repair any electrical appliances or gadgets at home. I am grateful for anything that happens, even if I find a 50% discount on marinated ribs or a parking spot in the shade. Karma is real. Story 30. Growing up in a low-income environment often teaches resourcefulness, creativity, and resilience. You learn to maximize limited resources, develop strong problem-solving skills, and adapt quickly to changing circumstances. These experiences also foster a deep sense of empathy and gratitude, traits that may be less emphasized in wealthier environments. Story 31. How to survive on the streets. Many affluent individuals I have encountered in life are unaware of what occurs in a challenging neighborhood. Understanding street safety is an essential skill for overall security. Imagine walking down the street and seeing a car full of suspicious individuals. If you come from a wealthy, safe neighborhood, you may not recognize the signals those individuals provide. You might misinterpret their behavior as normal, but if you grew up in tougher areas or have knowledge of such environments, you would find a way to escape or avoid the car as quickly as possible. The affluent individuals I have been around are naive for not viewing street survival as a skill. The world is not perfect, and money does not grant invincibility. I recommend that wealthy individuals spend at least one night in a challenging neighborhood to understand the realities of life there. At the very least, they will gain some perspective. Story 32. The ability to discern whether I am wanted or not. Growing up in poverty, I became accustomed to people never inviting me anywhere. Story 33. I had to work in entry-level jobs. None of the executives I worked with had to do this. They were born wealthy, obtained an accounting degree, networked into a good accounting job to start, and performed well enough to move into senior management. I understand what our company's blue-collar employees feel and think, while the wealthy group tends to be out of touch. Story 34. Now that I have money and spend time with affluent people, I have noticed that they lack enthusiasm for life and do not appreciate the small things. There is no moment to enjoy the beauty around them. Story 35. Being content with what you have and being able to fix anything that breaks. Thanks to YouTube, I can actually fix things correctly this time. Story 36. You learn how to fix things. Someone asked me how I learned to work on cars. My answer was, I grew up poor. Story 37. Recognizing something of poor quality means identifying items that are poorly made and knowing to avoid them. For example, the submersible that went down to see the Titanic. As someone with limited means, I could clearly see that the sub was poorly constructed, especially the controller that couldn't even last on my Xbox. Meanwhile, the wealthy individuals praised it, calling it a genius design. Story 38. That depends on wealthy individuals. There are many affluent individuals with life skills comparable to those in lower economic conditions. Conversely, there are also individuals in lower economic conditions who possess minimal life skills. Story 39. I learned that if you take a small hit and buy good quality wearables, you save more money in the long run. I have bought 3 pairs of shoes in the last 8 years, which cost between £60 and £120 each, as I mostly wait for sales. I found that Doc Martens last a long time, whereas before, I would go through 3 to 4 pairs of trainers or shoes a year, each costing £20 to £30. The same applies to coats. A good quality coat will last for years. Both items need maintenance, but the effort you put in extends their lifespan. Additionally, repairing items you already own is beneficial if you can do so. The downsides of growing up in a financially constrained environment include the ease of using credit cards, which can lead to awkward spending habits. I have to consciously use my credit card and pay it off in full because it is easy to overspend with borrowed money. Credit cards offer more protection as a consumer because they involve the bank's money rather than your own. Even after paying off that credit card debt, you remain protected in case of any issues. Story 40. The joy of walking into a grocery store and knowing I can buy anything I want is something most people who do not have to make food choices based on finances never truly experience. They may not feel actual joy when they finally have the means to buy whatever they want without worrying about their budget. Story 41. I have an unlimited supply of hope. When I was growing up, I didn't know how, but I knew I would get out of the neighborhood, go to college, graduate, and get a job. All of those things came true. The time span might be several decades, but everything has come true. I have so much hope and belief in myself that nothing could ever break me. Story 42. Savoring every drop of whatever I have. Shampoo, soap, toothpaste, food items. Everything until there is not a drop left to use. Story 43. My mom would brown ground beef and then make a batch of biscuit dough using it almost every day. She would roll the dough out, sprinkle it with the ground beef, then roll it up lengthwise, similar to cinnamon rolls but with ground beef inside. She'd bake them and then pour cream of mushroom soup gravy on top. She could feed 6 of us on less than a pound of ground beef that way. Story 44. Generosity. When you have gone without, it is hard not to empathize with people who are struggling. I had a wealthy friend get upset with me for giving money to a homeless person. Her parents labeled us as leeches destroying the economy because we were on welfare. I kindly explained to my friend, not her parents, because I am a coward, that wealthy individuals hoarding money harms the economy, while welfare money is reinvested into the economy when it is spent on essentials like food and clothing. I also had a sales representative at work get upset when she found out I gave the $25 Starbucks gift card she gave me at Christmas to a homeless person. I explained that I am not a coffee drinker and that the man looked like he could really use a bit of kindness. She said she understood, but I never received another gift card from her. Story 45. I grew up and still live in southeastern Kentucky. I am the son of a coal miner. I am proficient in various skills essential for homeowners, including carpentry, electrical work, concrete forming, HVAC repair and diagnosis, gardening, automotive repair, and small engine mechanics. My father could not afford to hire anyone, so, as kids, we learned how to hold a flashlight and face the consequences. I wouldn't trade that experience for anything. Story 46. Passing in every environment. I learned to adapt to each situation and class to maximize every opportunity. Story 47. I can grow my own food and process most animals that people eat for cooking. I can also make traps for various animals and fish. Story 48. Knowing how to cook when there is going to be a fistfight and any number of street rules. Story 49. How to sharpen pencils with knives. Attach papers together using rice or special folding techniques. Cut papers by folding and tear them carefully. Story 50. Reuse everything until it is no longer usable. Eat what you can when you can, and drink plenty of water to stay full and less hungry. Accept whatever job you can find until you can secure a better one. Story 51. Being comfortable in parts of a city at different times of the day or night that someone from a more affluent background might perceive as dangerous or high-crime areas. Understanding that a high-crime area may refer to some individuals engaging in substance use in public restrooms or stealing from a local store, which are not necessarily serious crimes, especially when compared to violent offenses. Conversely, it's important to have a sense of when real trouble is brewing and know when to leave the situation. Story 52. How to find multiple uses for items by repurposing containers, hair ties, sheets, and more. I learned not to dismiss food. I appreciate simple, inexpensive meals because they are part of my upbringing. Even during periods of depression, I can usually find something to eat. I also keep items in online shopping carts without purchasing them unless I still consider them necessary. Story 53. As someone who spent years doing remodeling work and general maintenance on homes, it was often surprising to me what people would pay. Much of that work is not complicated and can easily be learned on YouTube, but some people would rather just pay for it. Story 54. Figuring out which foods work well as leftovers and which do not is important, as is learning the best way to reheat leftovers for optimal results. Some items do well in a toaster oven, while others are best when microwaved. I know where to draw the line. Eating leftovers for several meals in a row, regardless of the time of day or which meal it is supposed to be, is common. Last night's leftovers for breakfast? No problem. Using coupons and discounts is still important, as is mentally adding up the cost of items in my grocery cart. Sewing and mending also make the list. Story 55. Fixing things was a necessity. We didn't have the money to simply replace items or call an expensive repair person when something broke. My mom always tried to repair it first. From the washing machine to plumbing, the car, and cabinets, anything. Unless it was a major issue that she knew was beyond her capability, she'd figure it out. She always made sure I helped through the entire process so I could learn too. I can sew clothes, refinish furniture, change the oil and sensors in my car. I fixed sinks, refrigerators, toilets, caulked tubs, patched the roof, dug out tree stumps, replaced light fixtures, and landscaped my backyard, including building a back porch with railroad ties, sand, and tile. You name it. She always said it was important for women to know how to do things. I thought my mom was the smartest and strongest person in the world. I still do. I just never realized she had to fix things herself because we were poor until I got older. I still appreciate everything she taught me. Even if things were challenging at times growing up, I wouldn't change the mentality of, I can figure it out and make anything work, that she instilled in me at my core. I have friends who were raised with money, and many of them are not only wasteful but also completely inept. If something basic stops working, their first thought is to either discard it or pay someone large amounts of money to fix it for them. It's astonishing to me. Story 56. Don't throw that out. Every condiment jar I've ever had. Give me the spatula or cut the top off. Story 57. Being able to do it myself for nearly any issue I face stems from never being able to afford to pay someone else to fix it. Although I can now afford it, I still prefer to handle things myself. For example, I refused to pay nearly $200 for an oil change on my motorcycle. Ironically, having to be self-reliant taught me valuable skills that now pay me well. I work on personal watercraft on the side and earned $1,300 for roughly 6 hours of work. I am no longer financially struggling because my experiences forced me to learn skills that now earn me over $100 an hour. Story 58. Sure, food, hand-me-downs, old cars, that isn't important. That is physical. Get over that or be left behind. The real answer is code switching and masking behaviors. People from privilege don't even understand what those behaviors would entail. Story 59. The ability to adapt to any situation or predicament is essential. I always disliked my childhood, having attended 15 different schools in 12 years. Recently, I had an epiphany. When challenging situations arise, everyone tends to panic or feel mentally lost. However, all that moving around taught me to excel at meeting people and making a lasting impression. I am still learning the later aspects of friendship, but I have mastered the initial part. Story 60. I was laid off from a high-paying job in 2022. I went from a great salary to the bare minimum in unemployment benefits. Everyone I knew was concerned, thinking I would be devastated. However, nothing in my life changed. In a situation where most people would be scrambling, I was fine. Honestly, I was better than fine. It was at this point that I started to ponder that maybe growing up poor was a blessing in disguise. There is literally no situation that I am not prepared for or that I could not make it through. Nothing in this world is tougher than a child going to bed hungry, moving around constantly, or helping their single mother scramble to find a place for both of them to stay for the night. Once that all occurs simultaneously and you somehow make it out, you are set for life. Story 61. Knowing how important and special it is to have people in your life who care about you. Similarly, I feel assured that I don't need money or material things as much as I need a solid support system of individuals who care about my well-being. Story 62. Being able to say no to impulse purchases I can now easily afford has sharpened my understanding of the difference between want and need. Story 63. If you want to be poor, spend like you are rich. If you want to be rich, spend like you are poor. Stay away from tobacco, gambling, drugs, and tattoos. Story 64. Chop wood, haul water, deal with scrapes, bumps, and bruises. Endure hunger, fashion tools from found objects, and handle challenges while figuring things out. Story 65. Being able to easily adapt to circumstances is important. I can go from staying at the Ritz in Paris to staying in a hut in the countryside without access to running water. Story 66. Cultivate gratitude for everything you have, as there are others facing more challenging circumstances. Story 67. I can eat leftovers for days, but my kids usually complain if they have to eat them even once. I'm also good at handling cables and screws, even though I rarely use them. Story 68. When I was on welfare before I became a nurse, my boyfriend at the time was good with money and taught me how to make homemade food using quality ingredients. I was very limited in how much I could spend, so we went to a grocery store and bought in bulk. I still know how to cook some of those delicious recipes to this day, and they are healthy too. Story 69. Teaching yourself how to fix things is important. No disrespect to professional tradespeople, but if you cannot afford to hire someone, it is up to you to figure it out. I also want to emphasize that I do not need large events, parties, or expensive gifts to enjoy myself or feel appreciated. We were not poor, but we opted to go to the beach and pay $5 to park the car instead of spending $1,000 for the family to enter a theme park. I would not trade those days at the beach for anything. As a grown adult with plenty of disposable income, I still have never been to a theme park. I have no desire to go there either. In some ways, I feel that places like that cater to those who lack imagination or creativity, offering to rent theirs for a high fee. Story 70. How to avoid unnecessary purchases seems to be a skill I have, aside from collecting small die-cast cars when they are affordable. The amount of things I buy for myself is so rare that it has become a running joke among some friends. Story 71. My father worked on the footplate for over 17 years and did not earn a fantastic salary. However, we grew up knowing that hard work brings rewards. Story 72. I call it resource management. What do I need to do and what do I already have that can help with this? It's basically borderline hoarding, but I know where everything is. Story 73. When you grow up in poverty, there is a humility that stays with you. You learn to make something out of nothing, whether it is food or something else needed. Wealthy individuals may not even know how much a gallon of milk costs, let alone how to make something with it. Story 74. I know everything about free services available in my country, such as doctors, dentists, therapists, books, and music programs. Story 75. I have the confidence and basic knowledge to fix just about anything in my home or car. If I can't figure it out on my own, I can usually find a video to help. My washing machine broke down again in April, and I diagnosed the issue, purchased the correct part, and fixed it myself for less than $100. My husband wanted to spend $500 on a new one. Where's the fun in that? Story 76. Learn to fix things on your own instead of just buying new items. Focus on purchasing products that can be repaired rather than those meant for single use. Even if you make mistakes, that is how you learn. This applies to machinery, home repairs, home projects, auto repairs, and more. If you need a license for a specific type of repair, pay for an explanation. Most companies will come out for a $100 charge to diagnose issues. I understand that not everyone has the physical capability to do repairs, and there is nothing wrong with that, so be aware of your limitations. If you decide to hire someone, ensure they are insured. Everyone appreciates a handyman until something goes wrong, potentially costing 5 times more. Educate yourself. Story 77. People knowledge involves learning to read others and anticipating potential issues. It requires being observant and understanding when to remain silent. Story 78. I have a unique intuition for deals. I wake up knowing I need to check the websites, and then there is an electric bike deal for half off that I really want. I always thought I developed this intuition during long drives with my mom to save $10 on a normally $100 shopping list. Story 79. Fixing items that wealthy people discarded due to a technical issue that can be easily resolved with a bit of creativity. Story 80. I cannot relate to being hungry. We did not starve when I was growing up. But if you were ever a little bit hungry, you just had to learn how to wait or find something to take your mind off of it. Story 81. Overall, having repair skills or a willingness to learn them can significantly extend the lifespan of items such as cars, shoes, clothing, and electronics. Story 82. First aid involves determining when a hospital visit is necessary and when a trip to the pharmacy will suffice. It always baffles me in movies and television when characters go to the hospital for minor issues. Story 83. There is no shame in going to the food bank. It is essential to find ways to obtain protein, spices, and cheese. I can survive on very little. Feels instinctive. You are new to poverty. We have experienced it for longer. Story 84. Empathy, love, patience, sharing, kindness, integrity, authenticity, politeness, and fairness are essential values. Story 85. I am not sure there is a word for it exactly, but I just don't want a lot of unnecessary things. I got used to not getting items, so at some point I just stopped wanting them. I love free time. I enjoy watching television shows and reading books. I play affordable games. I don't really want any expensive items. I tend to buy things that last when they are on sale. My clothes are old but not worn out. Some people put themselves in financial trouble by buying things they cannot afford. I will never do that. Story 86. Being able to fake it until I make it in their environment. But they would be hopeless where I came from, as in the movie Trading Places. It is one of the best movies ever. I grew up in Philadelphia, where the movie is set, and it absolutely captures the Philadelphia experience as lived from the inside. Story 87. I marry my condiments, shampoo and conditioner, and laundry soap. I cut open plastic tubes of sunscreen and toothpaste. I order water at restaurants. I was raised by a single mother. My husband throws everything out when it's low and orders premium Long Island iced teas. He says he grew up with little, but I disagree, considering his two-income family. We're different, but it's all about balance. Story 88. Repairing things has become a regular task for me. I have rebuilt my lawnmower several times, as well as our Dyson vacuum and many other items. Land Rover quoted $1,500 to replace the rear brake pads and rotors on my Discovery Sport. I did it myself using Bosch parts for $300, which took 90 minutes. This is also why I service my own car. I can do it better and cheaper. I have not met a single person in my industry, or even at my pay grade, who works on their own car. Story 89. Being able to have a good night's sleep on narrow beds and small couches with little or no covers. Story 90. I can make delicious meals from leftover ingredients and unusual items in the pantry. I got creative while trying to feed my siblings as the oldest daughter in a struggling family. This skill has served me well as an adult. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.